Hey, welcome to the inaugural episode of Wild Wild Bets. We're happy you all are along for the pony ride with us. How are you, Shane, my little doggy?
I'm doing a lot better now that you've called me that. Doing great here on a Thursday night that we're recording.
Well, we're here ready to do it doggy style. And we're about to go over really just kind of lay the groundwork for what this show is, what we hope it to be, and frankly, to start, we'll just introduce ourselves. I am Kyle George, or Deputy George, you can call me if you're feeling frisky, and I um, I like to use handcuffs, and really, I am a Chicago sports fan, sadly, and I uh, not White Sox with the rest of them, and I also cheer for Notre Dame and IU. And I've been podcasting with this fine doggy across from me for a few years now, and so we've known each other before then, but we're excited to do a new venture here with Third Down Thursdays and doing a betting show.
Yep, I am. So my handle there, if you're watching the video version of this, says Michigan Hat. I am on Twitter now as at Michigan Hats. The S is very important. So we've, like you said, been podcasting for a while. We've done other betting content. We've done a lot of sports content and just general life. Both of us as dads who went to college together. So we've done a bunch of different kinds of stuff. Um, a lot of it centering around sports. We both enjoy betting sports and just thought this would be a fun way to kind of talk through some of the gambling storylines and just big picture stuff. And then just, week by week, we're both tracking our records and kind of where we're at with our gambling. We talk a lot of sports betting stuff anyway. So
Yeah,
yeah, we hope this is entertaining. A lot of our stuff we do is very like sports comedy,
yeah,
dad joke kind of focused. So there's going to be a lot of that, but also hopefully some value if you are into betting the games. You know, so yeah, I'm a Detroit sports and University of Michigan fan. So that rivalry of our fan bases, because basically all of our teams have the like the corresponding team as a rival, just
correct.
being Midwest and so Third Down Thursdays.
Detroit sucks.
It's good to partner too. I know Third Down Thursdays, it's Chicago and Green Bay too.
That's that show. Yeah,
With
they
their
have.
show there. So it's
Yeah,
kind of a fun, Midwest rivalry. We're expanding that into Chicago, Detroit here. So yeah.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about like what we're kind of hoping to do here. So our betting show, our kind of our focus, kind of that I guess an outline for what we're hoping each show to be is to kind of have a topic or two to talk about. Usually, we'll try to tilt it towards how it can affect the betting world in some way. Um, but if not, if there's just a big sports story that we want to talk about, we'll start with that, and then that'll probably be kind of the quote unquote cold open of the show, and then from there, the meat and potatoes of the show, or as a cowboy, I like a lot of beans around a campfire.
Mhm.
Um, we will be doing kind of going through bets that we like, and as Shane mentioned, we have a whole bunch of um, we're kind of tracking our records as well, so we'll be sharing those, kind of going back and forth there. Um, and so that'll be a lot of it, just talking about what we like. And here's kind of the time frame within which we're working. We plan to record every episode on Thursday nights, and it's the closest weekday evening to the weekend. And so, therefore, what we've decided as a team is, at least to start out, is our betting records for the show will be for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The one exception being Monday Night Football. Would be the one Monday game, but the rest of our betting will be weekend bets because those are ones we are able to talk about at least a little bit on the show. And I want to also just point out, recording on Thursday, obviously lines change, right? Right now, you might be thinking, oh, so and so is starting on Sunday for whatever team, but it turns out that day comes and they are listed as doubtful or out. Things happen, right? So just know that if you're listening to this, um, we are recording this on the Thursday before the weekend of those games. Um, so yeah, and I forgot to mention in my little intro, by the way, you mentioned your Twitter. Uh, Shane does a lot of betting content on his Twitter. I don't really do that on my Twitter, but I obviously welcome anybody who'd like to follow. At Furious George 94 is my handle. My Twitter is sports comedy mostly. Just I don't do the betting as much. Like I don't post my lines daily like he does. Um, so he's someone that you want to tail, and I want to tail doggy style. And then the last thing is um, I've started a new venture also with Third Down Thursdays, writing some sports satire / comedy pieces. So
Highly recommended. I'll vouch for them. They're really good.
thank you, thank you. So please go check them out. They're all like 60-second reads, but they're funny. They'll make you laugh. Um,
Yep.
so my favorite one up to this point is the one about what is up Matt Eberflus's sleeve.
Yeah, that was a quick read. But
uh,
very good. Very insightful. A bit of journalism there from you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so then the way we're going to end every show, and this is kind of our spin on it being the Wild Wild Bets and then being a Western cowboy themed show, is we're going to have I think we're still workshopping the name of it, but right now the name we have is the Sharp Money Shootout.
Mm.
And
Brought to you by insert first sponsor here. We're taking offers.
Brought to you by Assless Chaps for the special man in your life.
There you go. Valentine's Day is right around the corner.
So anyway, the way that is going to work, and we'll explain it again when we get to it, but we have a category of games. Usually it'll just be by sport, unless there's some other theme we're wanting to follow. And we're going to enter all those games into a randomizer. The randomizer will select a game for us, and on a 3, 2, 1 countdown, we are going to spit out what our we're going to draw our pick for that game. Whoever gets their pick out first, if you know what I mean.
Whoever whips their pick out the fastest.
They get to lay hold, claim to that pick, and the other has to pick something else, as you would in a shootout, except in a shootout, the person who didn't get it would just be dead. So
can I pick a player prop? We actually didn't talk about that before. I can pick anything for that game.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
Okay.
try. It is the wild, wild bets after all.
That's true. No laws.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, we hope you enjoy this ride as we are. So let's launch into some just sports news to discuss, especially how it might affect betting stuff. So, and by the way, many times we'll be watching a sporting event while we're recording.
Oh,
so
yep.
We just finished watching on Amazon Prime the Ravens and the Bengals. We hit both of our bets that game, the over and the Ravens -3.5.
I was just on the Ravens. I agreed with you on the over, but I chickened out at the last.
Well,
second.
credit to me.
Yep.
I have big Western balls. That's what I've got.
So since we've been tracking, you are 2-0 in your
Woo! No,
your NFL
I had a
bets.
parlay I didn't hit. So
Oh, okay.
2-1.
2-1.
But anyway, so we'll usually be doing that. But let's get into some sports news. So I know one of the topics you and I had discussed was, and this pertains a lot to me because it's my team. But a hot topic in the NBA right now is the Bulls looking to blow everything up, or there being reason to blow everything up, and the main focus for that has been Zach LaVine on the Bulls. So first, my reaction is that I've never really been a big Zach LaVine fan. I've been very meh on him ever since he's been with the Bulls. Like, I've always felt like he never comes through in clutch moments. I've felt like he'll give you a game where he shoots, something crazy like 65, 70% three-pointers and 40 points and just goes off like a superstar and that he is paid to be. And then other times he'll give you a performance like he's done a lot this year where it's like, oh, he's 2 for 11 from 3 point and he's shooting like 36% or something and he
Mhm.
has 13 points on the night and 2 free throws attempted. It's just
Yeah.
his performance has been uh, to me his whole career has been overwhelmingly disappointing. um, so I for one am not disappointed to see him be on the trade block.
Especially when he's being talked about in the category of like a super max type player.
He
It
was
feels like there's
Supermax.
yeah, it feels like there's definitely tiers to NBA superstars, and he's a star. I don't think he's a superstar. I know that market's kind of inflated, and so somebody was going to give him a super max, but I think the second that he gets that, he's being overpaid. So
I completely agree. No,
yeah,
so anyway, I'm happy to see him go.
yep.
Frankly, the biggest I guess conflicting feeling with it is just the fact that the the Bulls are just a dumpster fire as an organization and as a team, and I just have very little faith that they'll actually acquire what they can or should from a Zach
Mm,
Levine trade. In my opinion, you gotta. I just want picks. I don't like maybe a young guy, but mostly just picks, and
yeah.
I don't know that they'll do that.
It's just hard too. The NBA and NBA is the sport I know the least about and follow the least. When you're talking first round picks, it's not like the NFL to me, where it's like if I'm getting unprotected firsts and they're like, or just say first round picks, but they're in the 12 to 18 range. I
Hmm.
don't know that really moves the needle much. You know, that's where you need to trust
Yeah.
your GM, but it's like Bulls have acquired 2 future firsts and future second. It's like, okay, well, if those are 15 or later, how much have I really turned my franchise around?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just tough.
So,
So, yeah, but I do have the odds up for future teams though, if
oh,
you
I
want to go
just
there.
I just looked at this actually. So yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Do you want me to let me know if yours is different? I've seen a few different things, but this was updated 12 hours ago.
Okay.
No free ads. I'm not going to say where this is from. The 76ers are currently the favorite. I've got it plus 200.
Oh
Miami
wow.
Heat plus 300. LA Lakers plus 400. Pacers plus 400. Spurs 600. Warriors plus 800. Magic 900. Mavericks plus 1200. So
Well,
I'm surprised to see the Pacers that high.
yeah.
It's
There's
interesting.
been some smoke there because there's been talk about the Bulls wanting Halliburton, which that is
I don't think he's touchable. He's been playing really well. It'd be interesting. I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't trade Halliburton if I'm the Pacers, but
Yeah, I'd rather have Halliburton to be honest. But the Lakers obviously just makes sense because they're always looking to add a star, and the Heat.
my gut reaction
I don't
here,
know how he
honestly,
fits on the Heat.
in terms of betting, is Lakers. It's been mocked for
Yeah,
forever, and he's from LA. He's his agent is that I almost said Ron Paul. It's definitely not Ron Paul. But
Rod,
it's
Rod DeSantis,
I
his
can't think of
agent.
his name, but Clutch Sports, and they're
Okay,
based in Rich Paul,
yeah.
and they're based like in LA too, and they're buddy with LeBron and everything, and LeBron loves Levine supposedly. Like
Hmm.
to me, if I'm betting this, I'm looking at that plus 400 for the Lakers.
Yep.
It seems like the better value there. So
Value is key. Like 76ers, I think is maybe a little more likely, but at half the odds, I think
I'm not betting that one.
if
Yeah,
you're gonna anytime you're doing a future, you're sprinkling a smaller bet, you're doing it for fun. Like to me, who is like the outlier, like I might even look like, I don't know, are the
I actually
Spurs worth a
I actually think the
a quarter
Mavs are
unit bet?
interesting.
Yeah, something like that. It's like to me, anytime I'm doing a future, I'm not betting the favorite. It's just,
Yeah.
there's no value in that. So I like the Lakers there. So
What was the
um
odds for the Mavs?
plus 1,200. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't hate it.
I might sprinkle a little bit on that one because
Especially with their owner too. It's like you wonder, is there a thought like we're wasting Luka's prime, and they've already tried to make a big move with
Kyrie
flat
Irving.
earth Irving. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like, so I don't know. Is there some pressure there that you need to finally, add a
outlaw.
real star or figure it out? So
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Let's say, if I'm not betting these, but if we were gonna bet this, I think Mavericks is like your flyer bet. Lakers is your best value realistic destination. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
We were just talking about this too. Sports books, you need to get on top of. If I bet a future, I should be able to put it in a different folder or a different section than my active bets, because it's very annoying seeing a pending bet for like 3 months on a future you placed. It's like I have to use a separate sports book to bet futures, because maybe
Or
it's
like
just like my OCD, but I just hate seeing 3 pending bets at all times.
this upcoming February, the minute that the Super Bowl winning Lions have finished the game,
Right.
I would like to be able
To
to
bet Bears Super Bowl.
yeah, I'd like to be able to bet Bears Super Bowl immediately and not
Yeah.
have to keep looking at it throughout the whole summer and off season
Yeah.
as I see them retain Matt Eberflus and keep Justin Fields and run it back. Okay.
As a constant slap in my face that at one point, like for me, it was like for 3 months I had to be reminded, like, I really thought CJ Stroud was going to go first overall. What an idiot. Even though I was right and he should have. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, that's good. We don't do the futures much, but that was kind of a good opportunity to get into that a little bit. So
well, no, yeah, it's interesting. And the other, just another topic that can affect betting, and we saw it this week a little bit, is quarterback health. So
yeah.
just in this not Broncos, Bengals Ravens game, we saw both quarterbacks
Both
leave the
guys
game
get
at
hurt.
times with injuries.
Yeah.
Um,
What
and
was Burrow's injury? I didn't see how serious it was.
Burrows is a hand injury,
Huh.
and there is an entire thing happening right now, controversy. So there was a video footage of the team getting off the bus earlier, and it appeared to be a
Oh,
brace on
I
Joe
saw that.
Burrow's hand that was not reported on the injury report. And there's this whole thing, and then Burrow hurts that hand in the game, and yeah,
Hmm.
so there's a whole controversy brewing there. He was out the rest of the game. Lamar did finish the game. He was just out for like one series, but
Warrior.
um, obviously quarterback health is a big factor. I can speak for
I
my
mean, the
team, the
Bears.
Bears.
Yep.
Yeah, the Bears opened the week against the Lions as plus 10.5 point underdogs to
That
the
line moved
Lions.
a lot more than I thought it would.
I agree with you.
It's got to not just be the Fields thing. It's got to just be people seeing a big point spread too. But
Probably. But it's all the way down to 7.5 now. So it's a 3 point move.
I doubt it goes any further, because then you're crossing a key number. I think it probably stays
It
at
won't
seven and
go.
a half. It
I
might
agree.
bounce back to 8, but I don't think. Well, right now, minus 7.5 on an unnamed sports book is minus 115. So yeah, it's telling you, if anything, it's going to go back to 8. But I mean, it's
Well,
definitely not going to go back to 10.5. So we've seen
no.
a lot of movement there.
Well, I checked right after it was announced Fields was returning, and they put it at it dropped from 10.5 to 8.5. Like it went
Interesting.
so it is interesting because not to get too Bearsy, but like Fields' turnover rate is problematic, and he's had one good performance out of 6 games against the Lions or whatever, and the last one in particular was really bad. And the one
Yeah,
before that, he threw a pick six to Jeff Okuda. So
the one before that was a good. Yeah, his best performance was the win, which was like the year prior to
it was
that.
his first game against the Lions.
Yeah, the last year, his first game, he did play well outside of the pick six, and the Lions have historically struggled with mobile quarterbacks, which I know he hasn't done as much this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
And I guess we can use that to kind of mosey into
Yep.
betting. Obviously, other quarterbacks look out for. You have DTR starting for the Browns in place of Deshaun Watson, who's out for the year.
Yeah.
How does that go? Do they go DTR the whole year? Do they go with PJ Walker ever?
Surprised it was DTR, to be honest.
They just need a shot in the arm, I'm guessing. I mean, they still have
Yeah.
playoff aspirations. They have an elite defense. So, you know, PJ Walker's not the answer, and at this point, you can't really trade for anybody because the deadline's passed. So, but
You know what's funny though is a lot of these teams that are having these quarterback controversies, backup quarterback struggles, are teams with elite defenses. Like you look at the Jets too. The
true,
Giants
that's
defense
true.
isn't as good this year, but like they're another one where it's like they just made the playoffs last year and won a playoff game.
Yep.
Quarterback issues. Steelers have a great defense. Pickett's been the starter. He did miss, I think, 1 or 2 games, but
Yeah.
you look at a lot of these teams with the best defenses in the league, and it's either quarterback injuries or just bad quarterback play in general has been the issue. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the Niners, Purdy's been healthy the whole year, but when Debo went down for that 2 or 3 game stretch, ooh, man.
yeah.
Apparently Debo is the, straw that stirs the drink, if you
Which is
will. Like,
weird because it
wow.
feels like you never see him do anything
I
this year.
know.
Well, Ayuk was hurt too at one point, I think. Um, it's funny, everybody but McCaffrey's been hurt. Who would have seen that coming?
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the reverse McCaffrey curse is what
Yeah.
yeah.
Which, based on how valuable he is, you'd probably take every player on that team but McCaffrey getting hurt over him. But
Yeah, true.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that's the main one. You said DTR. I mean, is the Josh Dobbs experience, is that a real thing in
right.
Minnesota? Like,
Minnesota.
is that better now without him? Like, you think at some point the league figures him out, but like you had Mark too, the Rams, they're only +1 this weekend with
Matt
Stafford being
Stafford's back.
back.
Yeah.
How much does he move that line?
I mean, compared to Brett Rippin, quite a bit, I would assume.
Yeah, ripping. Yeah.
So
Aiden
it
O'Connell still starting for the Raiders, I
oh
think,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. There's
They're
a
plus
quarterback that
12 and a
wasn't
half.
injured. Yeah.
Jeez.
Hey, it's no plus 17.5 that it was
That
last week
was
for Giants,
obscene.
Cowboys. And the Cowboys
And the Cowboys
covered like
covered.
3 times over. Yeah.
Just so ridiculous. Like I bet a ton of college football. Like that's my main sport. And you see lines like that all the time. I couldn't remember ever seeing above a 13 and a half. I'm sure there have been, and I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
17 and a half is wild.
Any double-digit spread in the NFL is pretty crazy,
There's a
honestly.
bunch this week. We'll get into
Yeah.
that, but there's 1, 2, there's a 9.5, but there's 3 that are double digits, and there's a 9.5. So yeah.
So, should we get into talking about some ways we're leaning this week with
Yeah.
things?
You want to go NFL since we're on that, or if we're gonna do our shootout there, do you want to start with college
Yeah,
football maybe?
let's go just chronologically in general with
Oh, excellent.
anything that you've got cooking. So let
Yep.
me double check one of my current bets. But if you want to go ahead, if you have anything.
Yeah, let me start with this one. A Friday night college football game. So, like you said, I tweet out a lot of picks like the day of. I like seeing how the lines move, especially NHL or college basketball. I'm never placing before the actual day of the game. So today I had I think I played 3 college games today. College basketball went 3-0. So tomorrow I'll probably be tweeting some more out. College football, I already did look ahead though. I do have one Friday night play. I'm taking Washington State -4.5 against Colorado. Colorado has been one of those like America's teams where you get these inflated lines, and then it kind of swung back where everybody was betting against Colorado.
Yeah.
You can get to some really nerdy metrics with this, like you can with any sport. You can look at like the S&P plus and expected point differentials and all that. Using a lot of metrics though, S&P plus is a big one. I think Washington State should be favored in this game by like 8.5, 9, and they're only -4.5. Colorado, I think Shadur Sanders and the fun story of Dion, which he's done a good job there overall, especially early in the year. It's kind of overshadowed how bad that roster is. And
True.
Washington State at home, at one point they were ranked really highly. They've had a couple bad losses, but I think that's still a way more solid team. And it is a tough place to play on a Friday night. So I really like Washington State -4.5. So that's my first pick for the college slate. I think that's the only one I'm going to have on Friday. And then I have several Saturday plays here, but do you have anything Friday you want to go over for any of the sports real quick?
Yeah. So I know that they are in Sweden, but I like the Red Wings against the Maple Leafs
Yes.
at +1.5. Actually, I might even
Ooh.
go money line. for the better money here.
Ooh.
The Maple Leafs don't scare me, to be honest. But
The Red Wings game today was crazy. So I was on Red Wings money line. They were down 4-0 early in the second period. Then they score 4 straight to tie it 4-4, and then they lose in overtime.
yeah, I saw
It
that
was
overtime loss.
brutal. They lost in overtime with 2 seconds left in the first overtime. Rough.
Yeah, that's what happened.
So okay, you're looking Red Wings tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the only NHL game. But
That's a
over.
watch at work spot too. That's I think like a
Oh
2
yeah,
o'clock start.
beautiful. Then NBA, I've got the Orlando Magic at the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls, you already heard me say they're in such shambles. They lost an embarrassing game to the Magic the other night. I don't see it getting better anytime soon. I'm taking Magic money line for that one, -102. That's where I'm going there. I actually am doubling my normal stake too for that one. I'm feeling pretty confident.
Why? That little 2-unit
Oh
saucy
yeah.
play. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Paolo. Do it to me, Paolo. Okay.
Oh my.
My other Friday night NBA bet is I've got the Nugs and the Pelicans. I like Nugs -4.5. So that's my play there. And then college basketball, I've got I'm looking at Butler +8.5 at Michigan State.
Yeah, I think I'm on that with you.
Michigan State, we were talking pre-show. They've
Yep.
just been really disappointing to start the
They
year.
can't shoot the basketball, which is a problem when you're playing basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been bad.
So I have a good feeling about that game. Um, I am also looking at James Madison University. Honestly, I don't know much about them other than that people say a lot of good things, and they're playing a nobody, and it's -8.5, so I feel good there. Arizona, one of the best teams in the country, -23.5 versus Belmont, and
Ooh.
this one is more of regional bias because I know how bad they are, but South Carolina, no idea how good they are, but they're playing DePaul, and DePaul sucks, and so -5.5 for South Carolina. I like that one too. Those are my Friday bets.
I like that. I'm sure I'm going to be on a couple of those basketball ones with you. That's a big one where NBA, I think you really have to mostly bet like the day of the game because not the injury reports, like to check
Who's
who's
active?
playing or
Who's
not.
sitting out?
Yeah, because it's like 10 minutes before the game. It's like Joel Embiid decided he's gonna sit down and play Call of Duty instead of playing the game. It's like, oh, okay, that would have
That's
been good to
Kyler
know.
Murray, but yeah.
Yeah, right. So no, it's the load management stuff in the NBA, but also just college basketball. Lines move so much the last hour and a half before a game.
Yep.
So yeah, I want to see how some of these lines move, but college basketball during the week is just so fun to bet. So
For sure.
all right.
And I'll tell everyone the odds are not out for Sunday's game yet.
Yeah.
But it's IU versus UConn.
Ooh.
Bet the crap out of UConn because
Did they lose a bunch of people from that team?
Who UConn?
UConn.
I'm not sure, but they're ranked 6. But what I'll tell you is that IU. I'm a growing IU fan based on my region and my extended family. I've watched parts of every game this year so far. They are fun to watch, but they have inducing heart attack moments against really bad teams.
Yeah.
And so you're like, man, they're just going to get absolutely steamrolled against an actually good ranked team. So on Sunday, I would almost say whatever the line is, bet UConn
64.5.
Sure, let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
But anyway, that's college basketball. So then, college football. You want to get into Saturday?
Yes, I do. All right. So a few of these I'm looking at. Here filling in some of the opponents here. All right. There's a few big games. I'll just say so. Like college basketball is a sport I like the best. College football, the sport I like the best, the sport I'm the best at betting. I bet a lot of games. So my season record, because we've got this tracker here, I'm 101 wins and 76 losses on the year. So
Wow.
I bet almost 200 games. but I'm up 28.38 units. So what I'm kind of looking for, NFL, we'll get to when we get to that. I think really when you're betting college football games or NFL games, you're not really betting teams as much as you're betting numbers and spots. College football, especially, is such an emotion-based sport.
I feel like that's a humble brag that you just did there.
What is?
I feel like you saying, you don't really bet teams, you bet numbers.
The casuals will tell you you're betting teams, but really you're looking at X's and O's and ones and zeros. I'm seeing I'm a coder out there basically. Yeah. No big deal. College football is such an emotional sport. So I guess an example with your team, right? Notre Dame, they had that stretch earlier in the year where you're playing like ranked night games against
every week.
Every week against Ohio State and Duke. And then you get to the
Louisville.
Louisville game and it's like, so I bet Louisville in that spot because like you can only, if you know what I mean, get up so many times in a row, especially at our age. And it's just like you're asking college kids to get emotionally charged up for these big games. And like, so you look at Michigan this week, you just came off a huge win against Penn State, your first real game, real test on the road. Look ahead spot now. Next week you have Ohio State. And then here, sandwiched in the middle, is against a Maryland team. You're favored by 19.5. You don't have your head coach for any of these games. It's just really hard for me to say Michigan's going to go out and steamroll this team when, like, I don't know how invested they're really going to be. Are starters going to be out in the third quarter? Are they not going to want to put anything on tape for Ohio State? And Maryland, like, this is kind of your Super Bowl. This is the biggest game. So, you're looking at spots like that, and it's like, well, Michigan's, of course, they're 3 touchdowns better than Maryland, but you're betting the situation more than you're betting the teams. You know what I mean? So a few of these games are like that for me this week. So I am on, I'll just run through these real quick. Miami plus 1.5 against Louisville.
Okay.
Louisville's. Yep. Go ahead.
I'd like to talk about that game.
Yep.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Louisville, top 10 team. Even though their biggest win was against a 3-loss private Catholic school.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's interesting to me, and I think you and I both have said earlier in before the show, it seems weird that Miami is only 1.5 point dog.
You know what you do when you see something like that, and you're like, that line doesn't make any sense.
Take
Miami's way worse than Louisville. You immediately bet the side that doesn't make any sense. You can also, if you want to, you can look at this and say, like, if you want reinforcement of that, you can go to, so like covers.com is one website. There's different websites that show betting differentials if you're into that. And you could say, wow, that line looks too easy. That line looks too good to be true. And then you look at the line and it's like 98% of the money has been placed right now at Vegas on this team, but the line hasn't moved. You can look at some stuff like that.
Yeah.
But really just based on face value, why is a ranked Louisville team only minus 1.5 here?
Yeah. So, and I'm playing along with your storyline, but I wanted to be different.
Okay.
And so I'm going with the under. I feel like if Miami,
what is the over under?
46.5.
Okay.
So I feel like if Miami wins, it's probably going to be a game where they really shut down Louisville.
Yep.
And Louisville, from what I've seen of them, has a good defense anyway. Mm-hmm. So I like the idea of Miami winning or covering, and then also the under.
As a general rule, and here maybe it doesn't apply as much because it's a close spread, but if you're taking an underdog, you should like, if you like the under, you should take the underdog, because like it applies more if it's like plus 10. But if you're like, I think this is going to be a low scoring game, 10 points is a lot harder to cover in a 30-10 game, you know, or like that if both teams are in the low 20s to 30s. So yeah, I like that logic there. But so I am on the Miami in that spot. It's just one of those, it doesn't make sense. But I think so Louisville's only played 2 true road games all year. Which I don't know how you make it this far into the year. They've had neutral sites and some other stuff, but yeah, I just think this is a spot for Miami. Speaking of spots, this is gross, and that's why I like it. And that's why I play plays like this. Penn State. Yeah, this is disgusting. Gonorrhea. The gonorrhea of the college football world, Penn State. Um, Nobody's going to want to bet them. They looked terrible against Michigan. They just fired their offensive coordinator. Why are they favored by 20.5 against Rutgers? Rutgers has been sneaky good this year. Rutgers plays teams close, and everybody loves Rutgers and Greg Schiano, right? I'm betting Penn State minus 20.5. This is a
Get right.
get
On
right
that.
spot. They have nothing else to play for. Next week they play Michigan State, so there's not a look ahead. It's just we need to come out and still have something to fight for. Rutgers, I believe, is already bowl eligible. I just think this is a spot where when you see a line like this, I think they're begging you, the sports book's begging you to take Rutgers. And I think most people are going to take Rutgers. And I think Penn State, if you look at their record against the spread, so they lost to Michigan State and Ohio State and didn't cover either game. They're 5-1 against the spread in their other games. Like they were blowing teams out. So this is a spot where it's like a buy low, sell high, like a stock market, right?
Yeah.
Buy low on Penn State. You're kind of selling high on Rutgers a little bit. I really don't think Penn State's that bad. I think Michigan's just really good and played them really well. I think Penn State's going to beat Rutgers big here. So this is another one. Like a lot of my bets, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm an expert or anything, right? But like I have had a good season betting college football, is taking gross lines that don't make sense that nobody else wants. You're digging through like the $5 DVD bin at Walmart. And you're like, oh, flubber. Like you're taking the things that nobody else wants,
Yeah.
because it's like the island of misfit toys. It's like you're going to a pound and you're adopting like the ugly 15-year-old dog. It's like I just think that's how you make money in college football. So so Penn State there because nobody's going to want to bet them. SMU Memphis under 64.5. I'm not going to get in too much into all of these, but I like the under there. Arizona plus 1.5 against Utah. There's a few really good games here on this week, like ranked versus ranked matchups. Sometimes those ranked versus ranked games aren't the best betting games
Yeah.
because the line is like right on, spot on. A lot of people are betting it. So a lot of times the ones that are actually the best sides to bet are like the like the shitty MAC games or whatever. But this is one where I do like Arizona a lot. I was looking at some of the numbers. This is just off the top of my head, so I don't remember exactly. I believe Arizona is like 19-6-1 against the spread since 2005 as an underdog at home.
Wow.
It's like very specific, but I was looking at numbers like as a home team, as an underdog, going back several years now, they've been really good against the spread. What they do really well this year is their run defense is, I think, 16th in the nation. Utah, with all their quarterback issues, quarterback health, really they lean on their run game. And with them being on the road, if this was in Utah, that's like one of the toughest places to play, one of the most underrated home field advantages, that'd be unbettable to me. But in Arizona, Arizona's still alive for the Pac-12 title too. I think they would have to win out, and I think Oregon would have to lose, and Washington would have to lose. But like, so I just think this is a spot for Arizona. I think this is like they're plus 1.5. I think the wrong team's favored. I think Arizona's going to win this outright. So that's my pick there. That's one of the bigger games. Did you have a pick on that?
Yeah, I also have Arizona plus 1.5. So
yep.
Um,
okay, another. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I'll just chime in real quick. So I have Bama minus 44.5. They're playing nobody.
Holy crap! Yeah, this is their like SEC. For as much crap as they talk about, like, oh, Michigan didn't play anybody, every year the SEC, they'll play the Citadel and the Helen Keller School for the Blind, like the second to last week of the season.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
I am betting Michigan against the spread. I totally get your reasoning for it, and it makes sense to stay away.
And I probably will as a fan too. That was just an example more of, and maybe it is smart to bet Maryland, but that's more of an example of like the kinds of things I'm looking for.
And I know you backed off from this, but I am sticking with Georgia minus 10.5.
I think that's the side if you're going to play it. Yeah.
I agree. You had said earlier that it feels like too many people are betting Georgia.
That's why I backed off it. Yeah.
But I don't know. I I feel like Georgia wins by 20. Like it's not honestly even going to be close.
So Georgia's one of those teams. The book would, if you look at every Georgia game this year, it's like 14 and a half, 10 and a half. You know, like you're never going to be on the right side of a key number. You're always like
Right.
a half point over a key number because the
Right.
book is trying to get you to bet the underdog.
Right.
Um,
Which, speaking of underdogs,
yep. Keep going. I got to plug my laptop in.
speaking of underdogs, North Carolina is an underdog at Clemson. So it's interesting because Clemson's been obviously a disappointing year. They have 4 losses on the season. It's fascinating to me because then they're playing this ranked opponent of UNC, who has 2 losses, and still, I think they're still in play for the ACC playoffs at least, and they have one of the most intriguing prospects in Drake May. I find it interesting. It makes me feel uncomfortable because I feel like maybe Clemson minus 7.5 is the play.
That's another example of what I said, where it's like, why is an unranked Clemson, who everybody said has been terrible, not only favored, but favored by over a touchdown
at home
against North Carolina? I think you either got to play Clemson or pass.
Well, I'm playing UNC because
on paper, I get it. It's just that's when you're looking at spots and numbers, that scares me.
I'm playing UNC for what you brought up, but also as a Bears fan, I just think the Drake May stuff is going to get out of hand. So I'm predicting, like, if he has this game and they win, a tough game, I can see Bears Twitter losing it. So
there's rumors Caleb Williams is going to shut it down after this week.
Really?
And prepare for the draft. Yeah, because they're not going to make the playoff.
They should have shut it down before the Notre Dame game.
Looking back, yeah. Cry about it.
So okay, it is mother's arms. Yeah. What a precious moment. So
I didn't even hate it.
I didn't either. I know it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's worth talking about that game. I'll probably bet something on it, but yeah, I don't have a pick yet.
So the one that I know that we both have picks on, and it's probably the biggest game of the week, is Washington and who are they playing?
Oregon State.
Oregon State, Washington.
Favored -1.5 at home, I believe.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that is an interesting game because you have.
Yeah.
Would you say Penix is the Heisman favorite at this point?
I don't know betting wise. I think he still is. So it's Bo Nix, Penix, and Marvin Harrison Jr. were kind of the 3 the last week or 2, I think.
Is McCarthy out of that race now?
No, but he's like 9th or 10th, I think. So his game against Penn State, because he only threw the ball 8 times, it just statistically now his numbers are lower, which they already kind of were because that's how Michigan had played. But yeah, let me look here.
I'm looking too.
You're looking Heisman?
I got it. Yeah, okay. So Bo Nix is the favorite at -110.
No value.
Penix is +370. Jaden Daniels is +370.
He's been super overlooked. I think he's gonna go to the New York. I think he won't be voted in because unfortunately your team ish. I don't know if it should. Your team's success is a big factor in this. And it's not his fault. His defense sucks.
You really think he will go? Because I feel like college football, they like to give the image that the Heisman can be win by any position. So I think feel
Harrison's gonna go.
Yeah. So I feel like it'd be Bo Nix,
3
Penix,
quarterbacks.
and how many do they send?
Oh wait, do only 3 go? I think 4 go.
Okay. But 3 are up on stage, right? Is it 4? I don't know.
I thought it was 4.
But Marvin Harrison,
if it's 3, then he won't go. Yeah, Harrison's gonna at least be there. Yeah.
Carson Beck is +3,500.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
And Jalen Milroe is +5,000.
I guess where it could happen for somebody like that is because Alabama is probably going to play Georgia, right? In the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
If one of them wins the game and throws for 6 touchdowns or something, then at least there's some value in betting that now, but I don't see that happening.
JJ McCarthy is +12,000.
Yeah, he's not even going to be there. He just doesn't have the numbers. Like his efficiency numbers have been really good, but his yards, he's like half the yardage of, Nix and Penix. So
Kyle McCord is plus 25,000.
Kyle McCord's not even going to show up in Ann Arbor. Forget New York. Yeah.
So
That will
anyway,
not come back to bite me, I'm sure.
so what side are you taking with Oregon State, Washington?
Oregon State minus 1.5. It's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah.
Where this
Looking
could
forward to
beat
watching
me
that one.
is Penix just drops his Penix out of his pants
Yeah.
and, just, puts on a Heisman performance. There is that potential. Where Washington, I think, struggles will be in matchups like this, where it's a team that can out physical them, kind of play like a Utah does, kind of like a UCLA does. They're just not as good at it, but like physical run game defense. When you're in the Pac-12 and you have quarterbacks who are putting up 40, 50, 60 points, that's kind of the recipe to beat teams like Washington and USC is a team like Oregon State. I just think they've been kind of sneaky overlooked for a while. But that offense, that run game with DJ Ukulele, I just think all the pieces have kind of come together well there. And I think their defense is going to be the reason they win the game. Washington, too, they had a really good game, obviously, against Oregon. They won big against, was it USC they just beat?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the 2 weeks before that, they didn't look very good at all. Like I think they barely snuck by Arizona, and then was it Stanford? They beat by like less than a touchdown. I don't know. I just think we could potentially see a letdown spot here for Washington. I think Oregon is going to win the Pac-12. I think they're going to, whether it's against Washington or somebody else in the Pac-12 championship, I think Oregon's going to win it. I'm just kind of been waiting for like a Washington letdown spot, and I think matchup wise, Oregon State's a tough matchup here for them. So.
I am betting Washington here.
Yeah.
So I'm going directly against you because I am planning on Michael using his Penix to rough up the beaver, if you
Oh,
will. Yeah.
Ward was hard on the beaver.
So anyway,
Wow, I almost want to switch my bet just because of how good that was.
and my last college bet that I have currently is I don't even remember the opponent, but I liked it. Is Texas minus Iowa State. Texas minus 7.5.
I am opposing you here too.
Uh-oh.
This is the one that's just weird too, where I think Ewers is going to be back. Texas has been, in that playoff conversation. They should be peaking at the right time. Iowa State is terrible. I think they're like a 3-win team, but they're at home. And this is just another one of those spots where it's a weird number. I think this is just Texas had been struggling and kind of barely beating teams several weeks in a row. They're clearly the better team. They should cover this number, but is Texas starting to look ahead to the playoff rankings, to the Big 12 championship game? I think they win. I just think this is a prime spot for like a backdoor cover. Iowa State,
Yeah.
garbage time touchdown to lose by 7. So yeah.
All right. We have spent a long time on college football. Do you have anything else that you want to cover, or should we jump
No,
over to
that's
NFL?
all.
All right.
NFL, yeah, I actually have less thoughts on now because we're even further out from that. We'll talk through some of the big games. I know we're gonna have our revolver pinwheel of madness segment.
Yes.
But we can kind of go through the NFL maybe a little quicker, at least
Yeah.
on my side.
So, starting, I mean, this is not.
Holy crap, this has been a long episode. My fault.
This may not be in order, but
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go with what I've got here. So, Chargers, Packers. Chargers are at Lambeau. They're a 3-point favorite, which to me, that means that Vegas thinks they're actually a touchdown. The biggest wild card there is it's like the first really cold weekend, and you're having an LA team coming
Yeah.
out to the elements in Lambeau. How well does that work out for the Packers? And for
Green Bay is
me,
off the bye, right?
no,
Was it
no.
last week they played the Rams and the bye was before
E-
that?
No, last week they lost to the Steelers, and
Oh,
before
okay.
that they beat the Rams.
All right.
For me, I'm going Chargers. Part of it's part of it is a bet as a Bears fan against the Packers. The other
Yeah.
part of it is I just Jordan Love is just not great,
He's not
and
good. No.
I have so much confidence in this actually that on my fantasy team, I'm starting my Chargers defense because I'm
Oh
counting on
my.
at least one pick. So
It's tough because it's like I think the emotional letdown's a much bigger thing in college than it is in the NFL. But Chargers just had a, 100-point game that they lost on a last second field goal to the Lions.
yep,
Now they have to travel across the country and play in the cold. I like betting bad teams at home as underdogs. So normally in a spot like this, I'd bet the Packers +3.
don't do it.
I'm not betting anything here, I don't think. But home teams that are underdogs is almost like an auto play to me in the
Yeah.
NFL. So I'm not betting it, but yeah, that's my lean.
Another one I have on here is I have Titans Jaguars. The line is 7. Um,
Pass.
yeah, I don't know if I'm actually I have it marked on the list right now. I don't know if I'm actually gonna bet it.
I keep wanting to like the Jaguars, but then it's just like
Agreed.
they're just not consistent enough. And Vrabel's
No.
numbers as an underdog historically are just insane against the spread. If you're giving
That's why
Vrabel
I
a
have
whole
Titans marked
7
right
points,
now.
yeah, I think you have to bet Titans or pass. A whole 7 points for the Titans in a divisional rivalry game with Vrabel. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's Titans or pass.
Raiders Dolphins, another ugly line,
Ugh.
12.5.
No.
Actually, now I'm seeing 13.5 on ESPN's app. I don't know if that's
FanDuel's 12.5 still.
okay. So, but anyway, 12.5. I hate it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't know about that one at all. I I'm picking. I have if I picked it, it would be Miami.
Yeah.
I don't really like the over under for that game either. So
46.5.
yeah,
Feels kind of
because
low.
well, either what's going to happen is either Miami's going to play down to their competition and it's going to be like a 16-13 game or something like that, or Miami's going to blow them out and it's going to be
And Vegas won't score enough to help.
well, no, I think they could, but that's
Oh,
why I
okay.
don't know to bet the over or the
Yeah.
under. Like
Yeah.
I could see this game being like, like 45-20, but I could also see it being like 20-16 and you're like, yeah.
It also
So,
feels like to me a spot where I'd be looking to fade the Raiders because they've looked better the past couple weeks after firing their head coach. It
yeah,
feels like the
true.
public would be like, the Raiders have actually been playing pretty good football. Let's
That's
bet the
true.
Raiders. But the line is there's to take minus 12.5. It's
Yeah.
like, all right, I can't do that. So
Okay,
yeah, nothing.
here's one that I think is interesting. So Cowboys Panthers. Cowboys are 10.5 point favorites. They just got done covering a massive spread against
Yeah.
the Giants, and I don't feel comfortable taking them for the spread again. I do not trust Prescott no matter what.
On the
So
road again.
I
Yeah.
am going with the over instead,
Ugh.
41.5.
Whoa, that's a low total.
Because I
Panthers
think Dallas
defense
puts up
is
a lot
really
of
bad.
points. Yep.
Dallas probably get a defensive touchdown at some point. Carolina had a special teams touchdown last week.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how I don't think there's any way I can bet the Panthers. The Cowboys are one of those teams too. When they're on, and they'll win games by 40 points.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
All right.
now my favorite game of the week, my favorite play. Cardinals plus 4.5 against the Texans.
Oh my.
I'm placing I'm actually gonna go Cardinals money line. Um I
Plus
believe
194.
in Kyler Murray being back, being the shot
Okay.
in the arm for the Cardinals.
What you really want is you want them to win a game so they're out of the race for the number 1 pick.
Actually, that's a great
I
point.
know what
But
you're doing.
I actually did not think of that angle, but yeah, that's a good point. No, so here's the deal. The Texans have been all the hype
Yep.
the past few weeks. CJ Stroud's been all the talk in the NFL. There's talks about like, oh, should he be included in like the MVP race? Like, what are his MVP odds and all these things, right? And to me, especially for a young quarterback, it's coming just in time for him to have letdown game of some sort. And I know he had a letdown game against the Panthers, but there's been 2 or 3 weeks since that game. So I think that it's another prime spot for a disappointing outing, or one just where a more experienced quarterback shows more than the inexperienced quarterback. So I love this line for me, and so I'm going to go Cardinals.
I like it. 4.5 is a really powerful number in the NFL. I mean, you're looking at teams
And
winning
the
by
bedroom.
4. 4.5 is a huge number. Some would say it's too big. All right, next.
So we got Browns Steelers. The line is
1.5. That's a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going Browns. That defense. I know it's DTR. I know it's uncertain. I'm going with the defense here.
The Browns, they still might be in the conversation for this. At one point in the year, I was convinced the Browns defense was the best single unit in the NFL. And it still might. It's either that or the Jets defense, maybe.
Yeah.
At home.
Go ahead, sorry.
So honestly, we talked about quarterback injuries and how that affects lines and stuff. Deshaun Watson being hurt, to me, doesn't change the line much.
Agreed.
Like
Agreed.
DTR, I know he's inexperienced.
Watson's been iffy.
Watson hasn't been doing anything. Like, when's the last time a game was decided by, or even a drive was decided by, wow, Watson played really well there.
Exactly.
Like, to me, it's a non-factor. I think that all the offense has to do is do just enough. The over-under is 32.5 because this is going to be two really good defenses against two questionable quarterbacks. I think the home team only laying 1.5. I'd go Browns here too.
All right. Giants Washington is Washington -9, and the over-under is 36.5. To be honest, the only play I'm going to have for this game, I think, is Sam Howell over on passing yards. I think that's the only thing I'm going to play.
Isn't he the league leader right now?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, which I know he hasn't had the bye week, but yeah, the Giants are definitely in full tank mode. They're not only not covering, they're like not even getting close to covering. I'd lean Washington -9.5. It's just, it also feels like they shouldn't be favored by more than 3.5 against anybody. So I don't love it, but I'd be leaning Washington 9.5. I think so. 9.5 right now is -105. I'd see if I could get that at like 8.5 maybe Sunday morning. So
Bucks at Niners. The Niners are 11.5 point favorites. I'm taking the Bucks. That's crazy. I'm sorry. Like, Baker's been surprisingly good, and the Bucks still have a good defense. And Purdy's been shaky this year. So,
well, their defense is really good at getting exotic blitz packages, throwing a lot of stuff at you, and I bet the 9 against the Niners. I think it was against the Niners last week, and it was like, oh yeah, it was the Jaguars, and it was like, oh, I'm betting a home team +3. Look how smart I am, and then it's over like 7 minutes into the game. I kind of worry here about the Niners just getting, dog walking the Buccaneers, but I think you can't make a living betting big favorites in the NFL. Like, oh, the Niners are good, -11.5. Oh,
because
Cowboys are way better than the Panthers, -10.5.
Worst case scenario for me is that maybe they backdoor cover.
Yeah, I bet if you bet every single team against the spread that's a 10.5 or more underdog, you'd make money. Like, you just can't make a living going this team's Cowboys are good, -10.5. Like, it doesn't work like that in the NFL. So I think you'd have to bet Bucks and just don't watch the game, check the score after, and just pray. So,
all right. Yeah. I'm going to keep it moving. Rams, Seahawks, 1 point. Or maybe it's 1.5 on FanDuel.
It's 1 right now.
1. All right. I'm just going Rams money line. If I'm going to bet it, I'm going to do the underdog and money line, and I believe the Rams can beat the Seahawks. Seahawks have holes in their team. They've been iffy this year, and getting Matt Stafford back, maybe that's what they need. If I'm betting it, I'm going to go Rams money line.
You also have a coaching advantage, and you wonder about Stafford coming back. The rest of the team still has issues, but there is a clear Stafford-McVay connection that's worked. even early this year when the team wasn't good, when
Yep.
you had both of those guys together, they outperformed expectations. That's probably the right side there.
Jets Bills. The line is 7.
Nope.
I
I
so
think you got to bet Jets if you're going to
I'm
bet it.
going Jets. I am doing it. I
Yeah.
am going with the New York
The
Football
Bills,
Jets because
are the Bills bad?
well, so that's the thing. I think it's gonna snowball. You know.
Well, the Jets have a defense to do it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we have Vikings at Broncos for Sunday Night Football. The line is
Broncos.
2.5.
Broncos.
I currently have the Vikings written down. Maybe I'll change my mind on that.
Since it's less than a field goal as the home team, it's kind of a coin flip there as far as home field advantage and spread. I think at some point the league figures out Josh Dobbs. As bad as the Broncos were early in the year.
Justin Jefferson's back.
Oh, is he? Okay, I know it was possible he'd return this week. But how quick do you flip a switch to him with a new quarterback just jumping back into the game? I just think maybe it's an overreaction to the last few weeks. The Broncos have been pretty solid the last few weeks. I think they might have figured a few things out on offense. And ultimately, I just don't trust Josh Dobbs. Like, I know it's a nice story, but he's played on 6 different NFL teams or whatever it is for a reason. Going against McVay on the road, or not McVay.
Sean Payton.
Yeah, Payton on the road. Yeah,
I hear you.
That's the Sunday night game. We got plenty of time to figure out what we're gonna bet on that. I'd probably lean Broncos.
And the Monday night game is the game of the week.
Oh yeah, great.
Eagles at Chiefs Super Bowl rematch. The line is 2.5.
2.5 at home, so you're gonna coin flip here too. I'm taking the Eagles.
I am too.
Yeah, defense travels. They've got a good defense.
Yep. Will Taylor be in the building? That's a big factor.
I also like the under. So people see Chiefs and they're like, "Oh, Mahomes, Kelsey, that's a high-scoring offense." The Chiefs have kind of become a defensive team this year. Like, their defense is their identity this year. And you keep waiting for, like, what's the week that the offense finally turns it around and figures it out. This might just be who the Chiefs are. Like, they have a real lack of weapons on the outside. As good as Mahomes is, they're a defensive minded team. The Eagles are going to run the ball. I really like the under 45.5. So I'd be going Eagles plus 2.5 and the under.
All right. It is now time for our very first ever Sharp Money Shootout, where again, I have all the NFL games that are taking place on Sunday on a randomizer. I'm going to click it. It's going to tell us which game.
We didn't talk Bears-Lions.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
I thought it was the last one.
I was saving it for last, and then I skipped over it. I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah. So okay, 7.5. The line has moved a lot. Listen, there's this part of my brain that was like, this is almost an ideal like letdown spot for the Lions because I was like,
coming off a high-scoring close game
out west. They have to travel. The Bears had a longer rest because they had played Thursday night.
Yep.
All this stuff. I was like, it makes all the sense in the world that this could happen, and maybe the Bears end up winning this game or covering.
Right.
I can't do it. I'm betting the Lions. Like,
so I actually thought that I probably wasn't going to bet it just because I couldn't bring myself to do it. When the line was 9.5, I think that the Bears were the right side. That's just a lot of points for a division underdog. It's a divisional game. Those are closer historically. 9.5, you're talking 2-score game. 7.5 though now. I'm probably going to bet the Lions at game time just as a fan, but I think it'd be at this point. I think you just pass. It's a weird number.
I'm gonna.
When it was 9.5, I liked the Bears against the spread.
I'm gonna bet the Lions because either I make money or I enjoy the Bears being better than I expected. So,
it's the emotional hedge bet.
Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this game other than I think it could be interesting.
Yeah.
And the way Fields is he's either going to come out and light it up, or he's going to come out and be awful. And either he's been a lot more awful than he has been good, and especially against the division. And so I'm expecting more of the awful Fields to surface.
This is also a prime backdoor cover spot, 7.5. Bears get the ball last. Maybe Fields hasn't had a great day. He puts together a 80-yard drive,
Right.
with 40 seconds left. And it's like, oh, Fields is back. It's like, it just feels like that would be
The
something.
question with Fields too is with his thumb having been dislocated, even though he's medically cleared to play, he said at practice he was still a little uncomfortable. So there's still, how does that affect his accuracy and his throwing as if he was accurate before? But in all seriousness, how does that affect him? That's kind of something to watch too. So
Also, what's up Fluce's sleeve? We haven't even talked about that. That's a whole nother factor to consider.
To Mamacita. So,
all right, now we're ready for this.
Now, Sharp Money Shootout, the first ever. Sorry about all the kinks in this episode.
Under. Oh.
But, okay, so reminder, we're going to spin this wheel that has all the teams that are playing on Sunday, and then we're going to do a 3-2-1, and maybe like 3-2-1, I'll hit the table and then go. That hopefully that'll help us with the time separation we have just to get a cue.
So
but
you
anyway,
hit, and then we both say it. All right.
Yeah, and we'll say the line, and we'll just have to do our best to figure out who's first. Maybe eventually we'll get a judge on the show.
There you go.
But here we go. Let's find out. Oh man! All right, the selection has been made, and now we have a tough decision here. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the San Francisco 49ers. 3, 2, 1, go. Bucks 11.5.
Oh. Okay. I'm not going to directly oppose you on this. I am going.
I thought you were. I thought your whole thing was that you could see the Niners dog walking them.
Niners minus 11.5.
Let's go.
I was looking at the over under.
Woo!
It's a 4:00 game. You know what? The inaugural shootout, I think it's only right we directly gun for each other. So
I do, yeah. And
Niners
maybe the game will be a shootout.
Yeah, after I just said you can't make a living in the NFL betting big favorite. Niners minus 11.5.
All right,
I will note those here.
We will continue to work on how to get this a little more even with our technical delay, but I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a fun thing to track. So maybe it'll just be something where we take turns. Like this week, I count it down. Next week, you count down, and just go back and forth. But anyway, let's wrap it up. Do you have any final betting thoughts?
No, I know we were long-winded here. I think we'll probably trim this down as we go. But it was a lot of intro stuff, setting the stage. Really, a lot of this too is just. I hope what kind of came across is like. As we do this more, what kind of stuff are we looking for? Like, it's easy to come on and just like rattle off like this week, this team's better than this team. So I picked this team. I think for me, not that it's some kind of system or like really sharp play or whatever. It's more just how do I bet games?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the process of what I'm looking for. So it's kind of fun just to go through the card and say, here's a line that doesn't seem like it makes sense. So that, and for me, that really comes into play for college football. So, hopefully the show works well here these next several weeks. Because obviously we're pretty far into the college football season, but if we can kind of, smooth out some of the edges and get a good system in place, I'd like to do this next year too. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And follow us on Twitter, and I'll be tweeting a lot of live picks throughout the day. Like that's my thing is, every day I'm tweeting out picks. So.
And it'll be interesting just to see how things evolve as we get into other sports other than football. When football season's over. Yep. The Masters follow March Madness, and then you're in the throes of baseball. So
baseball betting's fun.
Derby, so
we'll do the no run first innings, lose all my money again.
Murphy. Yeah. Love it. All right. Let's so with that, I have no closing thoughts. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Wild Wild Bets. Our goal on this show is to make you big and rich. So save some coin and ride with us, Cowboys.